Hello everybody, this is Simon with Let's Play Mega Man Quantum. Only one more stage remaining, and sadly enough it's not the most interesting of the bunch. Chargeman's stage is much like in the NES original, pretty much an intro stage for the second batch of levels, of course, especially considering the reward we're going to see at the end. That said, it's still a Quantum stage, meaning that it is pretty good, high on little details like the shaking of the train that is still present in the indoors regions, and I quite like to play it. However, it is pretty much self-explanatory, so we're mostly going to focus on the special weapons, especially the Mega Man 5 ones. Starting with Power Stone, of course, which is sadly enough still Power Stone. The reduced screen size does help, and in a level like this, where there are a lot of small health enemies coming at you from angles above and below, it has its chance to shine, but well, it's still not going to be very bright about it, as you could probably see. It has multitudes of problems still, mainly that I cannot change the angle on it. Even if I turned around, the chicken here would still be completely invincible. It's always going to come out counterclockwise, which is why we're switching to another weapon that is also, let's face it, really fucking bad. Crystal Eye requires a lot of pre-planning to even approach being useful. As you can see here, if I know exactly what I'm doing, and I did plan this out in advance, I can hit the chicken. Yes, it is gone in 2 shots, but it would have been far easier to do it with the Buster. In this case, I know that I can hit this guy, but I shot off just a little too early. That means that I will have to wait until all the bullets disappear and it's just a horrible mess. Here, for example, also, hey, yeah, you can hit a guy behind you, but you really need to plan out these situations. It is rarely, if ever, going to be a case of I shoot it randomly and it works out as intended immediately. Here, for example, it does. Yay, fantastic, but you probably wouldn't think of it, and overall it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, you know? It is best suited for situations where you can just fire it off and use it as a dumbfire missile without it ever splitting, which kind of defeats the purpose, I think. The Mega Man 5 weapons also severely lose out in comparison to the Mega Man 4 ones, which are just fantastic, as you have seen enough by now. Ring Boomerang isn't perfect, for example, but it is still far better than it was in Mega Man 4. All of the other ones have these little extra touches to them that just make them so much better than they ever were before, and the Mega Man 5 ones, well, they don't. It is like they try, and the reduced screen size should help, but it just doesn't, sadly enough. They're not too good, which is a kind of crying shame, because I've always liked playing around with them. There are a few situations like here, which are just tailor-made for it, as you can see, but if you do not hit it at the very peak of your jump, it will still not work, and yeah, Crystal Eye is just terrible. Again, as said, it is pretty good in situations like these here, where they want to surprise you with a little mousy mouse. And, well, it works, yes, definitely, but again defeats the purpose of it being a weapon that does... It's designed to want to bounce, but always when it bounces it's bad for you. Very strange. Napalm Bomb is still probably the best of the Mega Man 5 weapons. I've always liked it. And if, for example, it does kill the chickens in 2 hits, really nice of it. It is pretty hard to aim, of course, but again, this is another point where the reduced screen size actually helps it a lot. Still, the applications are not as big as they were in the original NES title, but I do like it still. So, with the last letter we have completed Wily. That means we can now summon him to have him fight for us, and no, of course not. But we're going to see in the next video what it actually does. As you can see, the chickens also cause a lot of slowdown. I really thought I would have charged up completely by there. And there are still a lot of nasty traps with the mouses, with the mice, of course, involved. And but it is diffusable, I think, especially considering that you keep the charge. This is what happens when you do not shoot it at the correct height. This is the correct height, the maximum height. And you can probably tell that the room is blatantly copy-pasted, as is this one and many of the others. But in comparison to the chicken room, this one here is actually really well done. Again, like in Ringman stage, for example, with a lot of changed enemy layouts, making it not feel repeated. I think so, at least. Overall, a stage that is not very interesting, as I said, but it does have its small moments and is a nice introduction for the second part of the stage. Chargeman didn't really get changed much compared to the original, but something that you can see here, you can immediately hit him once you enter the room, which you could not in the NES because he became invincible too quickly once he charges up for his well charge. You can really easily hit him here even while he's charging up, which is kind of nice. Other than that, he's still an absolute bitch to jump over, can be an asshole if he traps you in the corner, and I still do not like fighting him too much, but overall I wouldn't say he's harder. He's maybe a little easier, a little less frustrating to fight, but mostly unchanged, that is. As is Charge Kick. And sadly enough, it is nigh completely useless in this game. Big reason for why I took it last, actually. We're going to see why in a second. We also get Rush Jet from this stage, further proving a theory. As said at the start, that this is a very good intro stage. I do not know where to really use it much. I never try Rush out too much in these games, as you probably have noticed by now. But no, never mind. As we're not going to see too much of Charge Kick, a little montage of why it is just not as cool as I would prefer it to be. Many enemies are actually immune to it, as you can see here. And another very big factor that limits its usefulness a lot is all of these small platforms. As we now have less screen real estate to work with, the terrain is going to naturally be a lot more jagged, and with many of these one-screen blocks, you just do not have that much room to actually slide around on. Which is bad, because you need your time to actually apply the damage, and as you can see, in many situations you just do not have the room to actually deploy your weapon, which is too bad. And the floor cleaner, which we took out a while before, for example, he also doesn't die in one hit as he did before. I suspect that the coding's actually better now and it doesn't hit like a million times per frame, or once per frame that is, here for example. And if the enemy is invincible, more often than not you cannot actually go through it, which you used to in the original. You also cannot kill all of the mats that split up at once, which again you used to be able to do in the NES. Pretty much again a feature of it not hitting all the time. It's still able to kill a few of the enemies, and it does have applications like here, for example, if the thing didn't suicide, but you get the picture. And it is still a somewhat usable weapon, but overall it just got a major hit just by virtue of the game it is in. Too bad. Of course you can still use it to clear out these stones quickly. Not. Thank you very much for your attention.